Only one creature has carved a life for itself in every habitat on Earth. That creature is us. All over the world, we still use our ingenuity to survive in the wild places, far from the city lights, face to face with raw nature. This is the human planet. The sea covers 70% of our planet's surface. It's home to 3/4 of all life on Earth. All the creatures found here are perfectly adapted to thrive in the ocean. All except one. We are not evolved for a life aquatic. And we're way out of our depth in this dangerous and alien world. But great opportunities await those people who dare to venture into the water. As we immerse ourselves ever deeper in the big blue, how do we overcome the enormous challenges that confront us? Our relationship with the ocean begins on the coast. Even here, the sea is a force to be reckoned with. Galicia in northern Spain is home to one of Europe's most treacherous coasts. But the more extreme the conditions, the greater the rewards, if, like Javier and Angel, you're prepared to take the risk.
Oh, mi madre. Está complicada la cosa.
Javier and Angel are on the hunt for a strange creature that clings to the wave-battered rocks at the bottom of these cliffs. They have to move fast. Their quarry is only exposed at low tide.
Vamos ahora arriba, arriba! ¡Vamos que voy! ¡Cuidado ahora! ¡Cuidado ahora, joder! Tranquilo, tranquilo, code, code. Baja ahora, baja.
It's goose barnacles they're after, a highly prized delicacy that can sell for €200 a kilo. But it's not easy pickings. Each year, about 5 collectors die. Few dare work when it's this rough, but those who do can charge a premium for their harvest. Despite the onslaught, Javier's filled his bag. Now it's Angel's turn, and though it's getting even rougher, he's going in with no safety rope. Working unattached allows him to dash between waves and reach the lowest rocks where the biggest barnacles grow. But one slip could be fatal. Although the tide's coming in, Angel's determined to collect more. Javier and Angel's gamble paid off. In 2 hours, they've gathered enough goose barnacles to fetch around 800 euros. Not bad for a day at the seaside. It's this abundance of food that entices us into the waves. And just a little further out, there are even greater riches. Coastal waters account for just 1/10 of the world's oceans, but they're home to the vast majority of marine life. The trouble is, as we venture further from the shore, the dangers escalate. Benjamin's training to be a harpoonist, and he knows any day now all he's learned could be put to the test.
Keluar untuk pergi berburu. Karena kalau tidak ikut turun, sebentar kan tidak dapat bagian juga. Jadi harus keluar, turun pergi berburu.
He lives on a small Indonesian island called Lembata. Few crops grow in this rocky land, and even surviving from the sea is a struggle. But there's one animal they wait for that can dramatically change their fortunes. The whole village springs into action. It's a race against time to get out to sea. Benjamin and the rest of the crew are about to take on the biggest predator that's ever lived.
Ikan paus itu kadang-kadang dengan kecepatan ekornya atau kepalanya itu bisa menyebabkan kematian juga.
They all know the risks, but opportunities don't come much bigger than this. The sperm whale. Up to 18 meters long, these mighty leviathans are powerful animals, and they won't go down without a fight. With simple wooden boats and handmade weapons, the whalers seem ill-prepared for battle. But this is how it's been for 600 years. They can only harpoon the whale when it surfaces to breathe. So they need to move fast. Benjamin's brother prepares to launch himself at the whale. This is the most dangerous moment of all. he misses. And now someone else must step up before the whale dives. Benjamin's moment has arrived. He's got it. But the battle has just begun. As the whale fights to break free, they move to harpoon it again. They need to prevent it from diving and pulling a boat under. But it's not enough. Terrified of the thrashing whale, the crew scramble to safety. Another boat attacks and harpoons the whale once more. Now dragging several boats, the whale slowly tires. Eventually, its struggles are exhausted, and a final cut through its backbone is made. It's been an epic 8-hour battle, but Benjamin has shown his skill and bravery. And this time, everyone returns safely home. The death of a whale may be sad to us, but this is their lifeline. One catch can feed a village for months. And this small-scale hunt in Lembata doesn't threaten whale numbers in these oceans. They only take around 6 whales a year. Nothing is wasted. The meat is shared out. As the man who dealt the decisive blow, Benjamin gets a larger share. And for a while at least, his family won't be going hungry. Although we've evolved for a life on land, we've become remarkably efficient oceanic hunters. Adaptability is the secret of our success at discovering new ways to exploit the ocean. And in a few special places, this means working with the creatures of the sea. These fishermen of Laguna in Brazil have forged one of the most extraordinary partnerships between humans and wild animals found anywhere on Earth. Edson is up early to fish the large numbers of mullet that migrate through these waters every May. But there's a problem. The water's so murky the fishermen can't see where to cast their nets. So they join forces with the most intelligent animal in the sea. But like all relationships, a certain amount of patience is required. Finally, their friends surface. The local bottlenose dolphins are celebrities in Laguna. In fact, Edson and his pal Alfredo know each one by name.
Figueiredo está trazendo cardume de peixe para nós. Ó.
Esse é o Scooby, ó.
Esse é o Scooby, é.
Incredibly, the dolphins drive the mullet towards the fishermen and even signal when to cast their nets with these distinctive dives. The fishermen say they can tell the size of the school and which way it's travelling from the vigour and direction of the dive. The dolphins do the hard work herding the mullet. Fish are served to the fishermen on a plate. But what the dolphins stand to gain is less clear. Since they detect prey by echolocation, they have no problem hunting in the murky water. But picking off individuals in the school is more difficult. It seems the nets panic the fish into breaking formation, making them much easier for the dolphins to chase down. As the nets are hauled in, the benefits of teamwork are revealed. Edson and the other fishermen have no doubt how much the dolphins help them.
Outro que ajuda bastante os pescadores aí.
Aqui, ó. Umas 3 aqui, ó.
Acho que eu peguei umas 80 tainhas numa tarrafada só.
Fazer o quê? Não foi a minha intenção. Volta pra baixo, nunca vi isso. Volta lá pra baixo, lá pra cima do peixe.
No matter how we catch it, seafood is vital to human survival, providing the main source of protein for about half the world's population. But there's a lot more to our ancient connection with the sea than just food. The more we've come to depend on the ocean, and the further we've pushed into its vast frontier, the greater its influence has become in our lives. The Pacific covers 1/3 of the globe. The tiny specks of land in the middle of it are about as remote as life can get for a human being. With so few options on land, the surrounding ocean underpins almost every aspect of life on a Pacific island. Over 3,000 kilometers from the nearest continent, Hawaii is one of the most isolated of all. There are few places where the sea has had a greater impact on human existence.
Oh, mai kai na poia pau e he ka na lu. E na mokua, e na pupuna. E ho mai kai na poia pau. The ocean, significantly to us, it's our home. Our connection is so great. We look at it as our origin. The water is who we are, and the water is our mother, our father, our gods.
For Tom Poaco Stone, Displaying his skill in the ocean is a central part of what it means to be Hawaiian. Sliding on waves, as it was known, has been practiced by the Polynesians for millennia. But it was around 1,000 years ago, when they arrived in Hawaii, that it evolved into surfing.
When we actually learned that we could construct boards to stand up and surf a wave, it became a very ritualistic component of our culture.
Far more than just a sport, surfing was a sacred art form for Tom's ancestors. It was a core part of their society and the noble pursuit of warriors, kings, and queens.
We have a lot of history about women that surf. And, you know, they surf so well that they actually reach godly status. We revered these women.
From ancient origins, surfing has now gone global. And for some, searching for the ride of your life has become an extreme obsession. December the 9th, 2009, the world's surfing elite has gathered in Hawaii to ride some of the biggest swells to hit these shores in over a decade. Surfing certainly changed, but for many it's still a way of life, and the best riders are still revered as gods amongst the worldwide surfing tribe. With waves over 15 meters, 5 stories high, this is a real test of skill and stamina. Ken Bradshaw is famed for taming a 26-meter wave, probably the biggest ever ridden. But these unpredictable swells can claim even the most seasoned surfer. Trapped in a rolling mountain of white water, Ken is tossed around like a rag doll in a washing machine. Just as he surfaces, another giant breaker comes crashing in. After a relentless pounding from 6 successive waves, Ken eventually escapes in one piece. All big wave surfers know the risks, but the adrenaline and the glory is addictive. And just as the ancient Hawaiians discovered, surfing is still the most spectacular demonstration of our ability to conquer the waves. Our mastery of the sea is impressive, but we'll never tame its full fury. The enormous waves of December the 9th were created by intense tropical cyclone activity in the Pacific. When warm waters fuel the ferocity of depressions over the ocean, they can create the most violent weather systems on Earth. People must stay well away from the raging sea during these tempestuous times, but they can't stop it coming to them. These superstorms, with winds of over 300 kilometers per hour, wreak havoc on the human world. It can take years to recover from the destruction. Sometimes over 1,600 kilometers wide, hurricanes and typhoons are persistent reminders of the ocean's awesome force. It's little wonder that coastal people look at these mighty waters with great reverence. But not just for the power of the ocean, but also the power of the creatures that live in it. In the islands off Papua New Guinea, Blaze is known as a sorcerer of the sea. Possessing the mysterious ability to summon sharks from the deep, is one of the last so-called shark callers, a traditional hunting technique steeped in superstition.
Place I use him or spirit long sak long talking mol se body sabe kisi mol sak na kiwim pawa long kam long mi pra long close to long kanon ba mi pre catch him tula dai o na bungura besi no suo bungura besi no suo.
Blaze respects ritual, but he also understands shark behavior. Rattling in the water mimics the activity of feeding fish. Sharks can detect these vibrations from 3 kilometers away, but they don't always respond.
Mon man lo strong turu. Saya taitin pun turu na. Bien, amas plan dia bawa boleh stop nem bien boleh kan kecim sak na.
And as industrial fishing decimates shark numbers, the waits are getting even longer. Finally, a grey reef shark emerges from the blue. Blaze has appeased its spirit. But now he has to catch it, and sharks are notoriously skittish. It's a game of cat and mouse. Blaze tries to entice the shark close enough to slip a noose around its neck. But one false move and it's game over. Finally, it takes the bait. Slowly, he prepares the noose. Blaze can't keep hold of the thrashing shark, But this wooden float prevents it diving. Then, as if under a spell, the shark suddenly stops. But in fact, the float exploits a quirk in shark biology. Exhausting it so much, it enters a state known as tonic immobility. Blaise approaches with caution. The shark is still very much alive, and its bite could cause serious injury. In the past, Blaise would have killed the shark for food. But today, he lets it go free. Blaise is committed to keeping his shark calling culture alive. And this means keeping sharks alive.
Number belong sak, iwo long go down now. Long anem, mi ting long all future generation belum mi bla. Biar nonggut, nesela kalsa belum mi bla long kisim sak.
And it's not just traditions that are threatened. In some seas around the world, a growing shortage of fish is forcing people deeper and deeper just to land a decent catch. So deep, they venture to the very limits of human survival. Welcome to the world of the Pa-aling divers. Perhaps the most dangerous fishing method of all. 80 men, many of whom are still teenagers, are preparing to dive to over 40 meters. Breathing air pumped through these makeshift tubes by this rusty compressor. Joseph is one of the youngest aboard, but he's aware of the risks.
Pinakamahirap itong compressor kasi biglaan ang tama dito eh. Kasi yung free-dive lang.
He's already witnessed just how lethal his job can be.
Siya yung kasama ko. Pero no sa sawayan ng buhay. Namatay ho siya na-compress naman ho siya pero wala na rin, hindi na rin kaya. Nagpaalam na nga ho yun mahinga na daw siya.
The seas around the Philippines were once rich with life. But they've been so overexploited that decent fish numbers are only found at perilous depths. The divers guide the huge ball of nets 40 meters down to the sea floor, but all the while their air supply is at risk. Back on the boat, the ailing compressor and the ever-worsening tangle of tubes need constant attention. Like a failing heart pumping through clogged arteries, if this circulation system fails, at this depth, it's almost certain death. Joseph and the team unravel the nets and lay them out by securing them to rocks. They must work fast. Joseph knows the longer he spends at these depths, the more dangerous it becomes. With every breath, more nitrogen dissolves in his body, making him increasingly vulnerable to decompression sickness. The bends. The top of the net is suspended by plastic containers filled with air, creating a huge cavernous trap beneath. Now it's time to set the scare line. The boats drag the 1,000-meter line to form a huge circle around the net, and the divers position themselves along it. Joseph and the team begin closing the trap by swimming towards the net. The waving streamers and the curtain of rising bubbles panics the fish and they flee. As the line of divers tightens, more and more fish swim straight into the gaping net. This deep-sea roundup is so effective, it can take 50% of the fish from a reef. The net is closed, and now Joseph must do something even more dangerous. Get inside and herd the catch to the far end.
Good lang mo ng ganyan, siyempre may screen. Doon ka tatamaan ng ano niyan, hindi ka makakahon, baka doon ka pa mamamatay sa lambat na yun. Kaya todo ingat din na hindi ka doon sa ilalim.
On deck, the tangled web of tubes is getting worse. Once the catch is concentrated, the net is released from its anchor points. Now comes the most lethal stage of all, guiding the net as it shoots to the surface. All too often, the divers ascend too quickly and get the bends. As the catch is hauled onto the boat, its size is revealed. Just under a ton of fish isn't bad, but it's nowhere near what these fishermen were landing a few years ago. And this isn't the only problem. Some of the crew do have the bends. One diver has returned to the bottom to relieve the symptoms, whilst closer to the surface, another is massaged to release the painful bubbles in his spine. Every day, these Pa-aling divers are taking greater risks for dwindling rewards.
Meron din pagkakaiba. Hindi naman habang nabubuhay ka, ito lang ang pinakamatrabaho mo talaga eh. Meron din iba, nilangan na pang marami. Siyempre, yung hindi rin delikado, safe ka rin sa trabaho mo, hindi ka na ng sakit sa katawan.
Joseph has his dreams, but the harsh reality is he'll be diving twice again today, just to make ends meet. We've become so successful in the ocean, it's predicted that in 50 years, almost all the fish could be gone. And this may not be the only change to come. All around the world, sea levels are rising. Soon, our planet could be even more dominated by the ocean, and our ability to survive here will be pushed to the very limit. Yet there are some people who've already adapted to life in a water world. In the coral seas between Borneo, Sulawesi and the Philippines, there are people who live more intimately with the ocean than any other culture on Earth. The Bajau Laut build their lives in the middle of the sea, often many kilometers from land. The ocean has a profound influence on every aspect of their existence. They even measure the passage of time by the rhythm of the tides rather than minutes and hours. And there are some whose relationship with the sea runs even deeper. The Bajau, who live on houseboats, have almost completely severed their ties with the land. Nohara rarely sets foot ashore.
Pinag-anak aku makulapuan. Sampai aku ahaya na, mamotol na ako, bujang. Nah, kami mamotolinan ahap palasan kami. Pasal luma, nabang motol, ahap. Piingga ka, nahakang hela labu. Amuput ka. Ay kabilahan no lahat.
Nohara and her family usually only visit land to trade for rice and fuel, or to mend their boats. But like many Bajau, Nohara gets landsick, and she prefers to stay aboard. Her family has no nationality, no fixed abode, and almost no money. But the ocean provides everything they need. They eat a bewildering variety of seafood. Her children adapt to an aquatic way of life from a very young age. Some Bajau children spend so much time in the sea, their eyes adjust to focus better underwater. But there's one member of this community whose adaptation is even more staggering. Sulbin is an underwater hunter and the living proof of just how far we can push our bodies towards a life aquatic.
Bang aku atuhun makalaloman, insani tananam ko pedi. Supaya niya tananam ko pedi, baru Allah aku. Bang mensaruh, mensaruh. Asan nang marom tahik mariata.
Sulbin's search for supper takes him on an incredible journey under the waves, and his abilities will take your breath away. First, he prepares by entering a trance-like state.
Ya mga ko atuhun na pareo ya napas ko inaan pataha. Pubote ako jari anu napas ko.
Sulbin is about to push his body almost beyond the realms of possibility. And if you want to try and join him, get ready to hold your breath for as long as you can. He takes one last breath. Focused and calm, Sulbin descends 20 meters to the sea floor. His heartbeat slows to around 30 beats per minute. The pressure at these depths crushes his chest, squeezing the air in his lungs to 1/3 of its usual volume. Even without weights, he's negatively buoyant enough to stride across the bottom of the sea as if hunting on land. By now, the carbon dioxide in his blood causes an almost irresistible urge to gasp for air. But Sulbin must keep his mind on the hunt. After 1 minute and 3/4, Sulbin spots a fish. Sulbin can go even deeper than this and stay down for up to 5 minutes. But he's not one to show off, and after all, he's got what he came for. 2.5 minutes of hunting under pressure on one breath. Perhaps the idea of humans existing as marine mammals is not so far-fetched after all. Through amazing adaptability and endeavor, we've pushed our limits of survival into the ocean. And as we've immersed ourselves deeper in the sea, it's had a profound effect on our lives. But as we continue to change the nature of the greatest environment on our planet, how we'll adapt in the future remains to be seen. The most technical and demanding shoots for the Human Planet Oceans program were those that took place underwater. The dive camera crew were well prepared to film fishermen in the Philippines, but they weren't quite prepared for the dangers they'd witness and the friendships they'd forge. Liminangkong is home to the 80 Pa-aling fishermen that the film crew will follow.
Ito po si Simon, tapos ito po si Roger. Sila po yung sa ilalim ng tubig. So, sasabayan nila kayo. Sasabayan nila kayo sa ilalim. Sila yung may dala ng camera sa ilalim ng tubig.
2 fishing boats are crammed with 80 divers, their food and provisions before heading out for 2 weeks at sea. At the fishing grounds, Simon and Roger are playing catch-up as their technical underwater equipment is slowing them down.
They've just dropped the lines, didn't even tell us. The captain seems to be on a real mission to prove something today, so we've got to go fast.
Underwater filming is risky, but these risks are nothing compared to those faced daily by the compressor divers. Compressor diving is a dangerous way to make a living. Air, often tainted with diesel, is pumped through thin plastic tubes right down to the divers. At 64, Joning is one of the veterans on the boat and knows the harsh realities of compressor diving.
Dahil ako sa compressor, 30 anyos na ako ng compressor. Ngayon, yung mula sa dagat, umidad pa lang ako ng 15. Yun ang talagang hanap buhay ko ng dagat.
Most of the divers are young and fit, and they need to be. It's physically demanding work, and the men are totally reliant on the compressor to keep them breathing.
Pag yung compressor, pag mahina naman yung hangin, mahina ang bigay ng makina ang ikot, mahina doon sa ilalim, masakit ang dibdib natin na paghinga.
To use basically what's essentially a garden hose down at 25 meters to pump air into your mouth is just mad.
The biggest danger for these fishermen is known as decompression sickness, or the bends. The bends can happen when divers have been down deep for a long time and then come up too quickly to the surface. Nitrogen is absorbed into the body, and as the divers rise up, bubbles are formed that can lodge in the joints, causing intense pain. Two guys are in real trouble on this deep dive. Martin, a young diver, is in such pain that his friend tries to relieve it by massaging him. Once on the surface, it's obvious to everyone that Martin is still in trouble. If not treated, the bends can lead to permanent injuries and even death. Meanwhile, the second diver, Michael, is also having problems.
It seems like two men just came up with the bends. They went pretty deep on this dive, trying to get more fish, but we've taken them onto our boat to get some medical attention, so hopefully they're all right.
Change one over.
Simon tries to relieve their symptoms with the crew's first aid supplies.
One more set, piece of set. Michael's had 15 minutes on oxygen. Now put Martin back onto another set of 15 minutes. And this is the rudimentary decompression first aid that we can give them at the moment. Give them oxygen, give them water to rehydrate, keep them warm. Both of them are saying that their symptoms are decreasing, and they're looking a lot more happier than they did about half an hour ago.
He gives them oxygen, which helps reduce the nitrogen in their bodies and relieves their pain. But even this most basic of diving first aid is not normally available to the Pa-aling fishermen. This isn't surprising, as the fishermen in the Philippines belong to the lowest wage earners in the country, earning about $25 for a week's work. However, for many like Johnny and his family, this is their whole way of life.
Tatlo yun nandito, pati yung ako. Mag-ingat, hindi yung basta-basta pupunta sa taas. Yung isa kong anak, sumisid yun ng 36, di pa 36. 4 na oras siya doon sa ilalim. Pagbalik niya doon, natanggal niya. Bago pagbalik niya sa taas, doon siya na tinamaan ng hangin.
His son had got the bends and now has to use crutches. But this isn't the only time that dangers of compressor diving have hit Johnning's family.
Kaya yung anak kong isa na kuwan din yun sa compressor, ayaw na niya tanggapin na nabalda siya. Gusto talaga niya na gumaling siya. Yung matagal ko na kung saan-saan ko siya dalahin, kumo sa paghihirap nga ng tao, wala akong makakuha ng pera. Yung matagal na malapit na siya 1 taon na nabalda, ginawa siguro niya parang nagulo na pag-iisip niya, nagtali na lang siya ng lubid para siya mamatay.
I'm very sorry about that.
Nakikiramay din daw po.
Yeah, that's terrible. That's really sad, isn't it?
Yes.
Having spent a week living and working with the compressor divers, Simon and Roger have become very close to the fishermen. To fully understand their way of life, Simon needed to experience firsthand what it's like to be a compressor diver. So Johnny is keen to take him on a shallow dive.
Seeing the boys do it, they've made it look easy, but You know, we've had several guys that have gone down with symptoms of the bends. I've got to admit, I'm feeling a little bit apprehensive actually.
Simon has scuba dived for 16 years and has logged over 3,000 dives, but this is diving at its most basic.
That's bad. For the first minute, I gotta say, I was a little bit petrified actually. This is a violent thing. It's just punching air down your throat. It's quite mad. It took me a minute to kind of get myself under control, and then once you got the hang of it, and once you believed in it and trusted it, then you could swim off. There's a couple of times when I lost it though. Just flailing around everywhere, trying to find it again and get it back in, but Johnny was keeping a good eye on me, and the rest of the guys were as well. But yeah, no, I wouldn't want to do that for a whole sort of fish catching session, that's for sure.
A strong camaraderie between the divers has been forged. The film crew have captured a dramatic sequence, and the fishermen head home happy with a boatload of fish to sell.
Maganda naman yung hanap buhay katulad ng dagat, lalo na kung magkaisa ang pagsasama ng tao. Lalong maganda, lalo katulad nitong pala hanap buhay, makahuli ng marami, tuwan-tuwa na yung mga tao.
Johnning and everyone on board have finished another Pa-aling fishing trip, and all can return safe and sound to their families.
Coming up next this evening, stay with us for how drugs work and a closer look at ecstasy.